My name is Peter Sullivan. I'm writing this in case I go missing, so people will know what happened. It all started the day Lee Sutton and his wife returned from their trip. They were going on a very important company business trip while their daughter stayed at a friend's house. Whatever happened to them while they were gone, they weren't the same when they came back. In fact, I barely even recognized them when they got out of their car that morning. They seemed disheveled and had almost inhumanly wide grins on their faces. When I greeted them, they just waved and went into their house. At around noon, they left to get their daughter and bring her back to the house. They were less disheveled, but still had those creepy grins. I was on my porch drinking some lemonade when they came back. I overheard them ask their daughter how her week with her friend was. Their voices were normal, but the way they were speaking was off. Hollow, almost. No real emotion was audible in their voices. They still had those smiles on their faces. She seemed uncomfortable, but still eager to tell her parents all about her week as I walked in their house. I finished my lemonade and walked in my house as well. The rest of my day was pretty average until that night. At that point, around 8, loud, blood-curdling screams erupted from the Sutton house. I knocked on their door and was met by Lee and his creepy smile. I asked if everything was alright, and he responded saying that everything was quite alright. He said that his daughter was watching a horror movie and they tried to get her to quiet down, apologizing for the noise. I had doubts, since she was still screaming, but accepted the reason as there wasn't much I could do. The next morning, I was on my porch drinking coffee, as I usually was, when the Sutton daughter came up to me and apologized for the screaming the night before. I felt uneasy, as she was wearing a large smile similar to her parents, and was speaking with the same hollow tone, but accepted the apology all the same. That night, there was yelling again, but not from the Sutton household. This time, it was from the house of Gary Carlin, the local mailman. I was getting more and more uneasy, but decided to ignore it since Gary was always yelling at his cat, Phoebe. The next day I was on the porch waiting for Gary to deliver the mail so I could ask him what happened last night and if he was okay, but he didn't arrive at the normal time. However, an hour later, I walked on the porch to enjoy the day, as normal, when I saw Gary walking away from the house. I called a greeting to Gary and he turned around to greet me back. On his face was a damn smile, just like the Sutton family had. I was shocked. Why the hell is everyone smiling like that? I wondered to myself. Is this some kind of trend I haven't heard of? Well, I looked it up and couldn't find anything about it. So I made a vow to myself to find out what was going on. Luckily, the rest of the day went by without a hitch. However, that night, I was on my porch smoking a cigarette when I saw the Sutton family leave their house. At first, I thought they were going on a trip or something, but they never even went near their driveway. Instead, they started walking down the street. I decided to sneakily follow them, and I was soon led to the house of Henry McMillan and his family. I watched as they slowly and quietly opened the door and snuck in. I know I should have called the cops, but I decided I was going to solve the mystery myself. I waited 3 minutes and snuck in. I watched as the Sutton family injected the now tied-up McMillans with a brown, slimy-looking substance in a syringe, and they began to scream. The McMillans continued to scream in what I now realized was fear and pain as their skin and hair began falling off in chunks. Underneath, there was new skin, though. As the skin around their lips and mouth fell off, I saw that underneath it was a giant toothy grin, just like the others. I watched until the skin was all off and the Sutton family untied the McMillans. I started to quietly back away, but then I stepped on a floorboard rung and it made a loud creak. All the whatever they were in the house looked up and saw me. I started to run and I could hear them chasing me. Luckily for me, I'd always been good at cardio, so I managed to get to my car and drive away. I thought I was in the clear, until I looked behind me in the mirrors. There, a couple of cars behind mine, was a Sutton family car. I continued driving and eventually lost them. I'm currently staying in a cheap motel somewhere in the next state. I think I'm safe for now, but I don't want to stay too long and risk them finding me. Please, if your neighbors or family start acting and sounding weird and creepy, get away from them as soon as you can. Especially if they won't stop smiling.